Is this thing on? I hope so. I am sitting here right now, this second, in what I consider to be the baddest ride on the planet. And when I say bad, I really mean good. This to me is the #1 luxury brand SUV on the market. And yes, dare I say it, even better than the Land Rover Range Rover. Now I know I'm going to be beat to pieces about that because you all love your Range Rover. And quite frankly, so do I. You also love the Escalade, I know. And then we have fans out there of the GLS. I forget what it's called now because it's changed names, but 550, 560, whatever it's called. And oh, we can't forget the LX 570. I mean, the list of luxury vehicles, luxury SUV vehicles more specifically, run the gambit. But right now today, to me, the best one is the BMW X7. And I'll tell you why. So no, this is not a side-by-side comparison of the Range Rover versus the BMW X7. I may do that in the future because I have a video coming up about the new BMW X7. And also I know that there have been some really cool changes to the Range Rover 2023. So to be able to compare the Range Rover 2023 and the new BMW X7 2023 would be fun, and I plan on doing that. But even sitting here in the 2020 BMW X7, before I purchased this car, I went on the prowl, literally, to look at all of the different luxury SUVs that were out there on the market, including the Range Rover by Land Rover and the Land Rover Discovery. As I said, I love them, but I'm just going to give you a few quick rundowns about this car, and then I'm going to come back in a later video to tell you a whole lot more about the specs and all the wonderful things you can look forward to if you were to purchase this car. And oh, by the way, this is not a sponsored video. I just happen to love BMWs now. Never did in the past till I owned an X7. I just happen to love BMWs, and I get the question so often. They stop me and they ask me, oh, how do you love it? They'll see me at the grocery store. People, who are they? All I mean is people, random strangers will stop me and say, oh my goodness, I love your car. This is my dream car. Or they'll say, how do you love driving it? Or they'll say, does it have enough space? How is it on gas? And to me, as I did side-by-side comparisons of all of those SUVs that I just mentioned, and even ones that I didn't mention, it just came out on top time after time after time. Now, let me be sensitive to just mention the fact that I understand not everybody can afford a luxury SUV. And in my opinion, if you are thinking about buying a BMW X7 or any luxury SUV in this category, you know your pocketbook much better than I do. So I'm not saying at all that people should break the bank and go out there and buy something they can't afford. But if you're already looking at Audis and Mercedes and Range Rovers, there's not a huge difference between a $95,000 SUV and a $110,000 SUV, except for maybe bragging rights, clout, the ability to say, I spent $110 on a, Mercedes G-Wagon. And by the way, the BMW X7 can exceed that price as well. You don't have to. Starting price, I think, is somewhere around $78,000 or $79,000. But I'll tell you also that if you're in the market for looking for an SUV that's in the luxury category, more than likely when you go to these stores and you're talking about base price, you're very rarely going to find one that starts at those base prices. I don't know whose base price they're talking about or who they're referring to, but I've not seen one for the base price ever, really. So this thing is good on gas. I just am in disbelief how good on gas it is. Like I said, I'll show you the different modes that it has. It has comfort, eco, adaptive, sport. Sport certainly isn't the touring package. You don't want to travel any long distance in sport. It is just to show off all the magnificent engine skills that the BMW X7 has. It will burn up all your gas. But there is this really magical setting called Eco Pro. I drove all the way from Georgia to North Carolina and back nearly on one tank of gas. From Atlanta, Georgia to Charlotte, North Carolina and back. I know that's unbelievable. When you fill up this car, it takes a lot to fill it up. When the gas prices had really skyrocketed, it was about $90. Now it's probably back around to maybe $80. It fills up and you can see your little miles. Right now I'm on half tank, 204 miles, but it goes all the way, I think, to like roughly 423. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I got all the way over there and it took me down maybe about a half a tank. And if I had turned right back around and left and come back, I would have made it almost to my door. It's really crazy how good on gas this vehicle is to be so huge. Now, speaking of huge, it's huge, especially for a BMW. Now, I think BMW has multiple, what I would consider to be multiple SUVs, maybe more than most luxury car companies. Don't quote me on that, but I know they have an X3, they have an X1, they have an X4, they have an X5, and they have an X6. And I think all of those fall under the category of SUVs, or at least at the very least hybrid to SUVs. And they never had a three-row. They never had a three-row. A very dedicated three-row. I think I read somewhere a few years back that you could potentially get a three-row in the 5. I don't know how that's possible, but they never had a dedicated three-row. And BMW is our direct competitor with who? Mercedes, who has had the GL, used to be the GL, became the GLS, for over a decade. So for over a decade, they had a full-bodied luxury SUV with 3 rows, and BMW didn't have an answer to that until 2020. So I was one of the lucky ones to purchase this car on January 1st, 2020, just before the pandemic hit. So I sadly never got the opportunity to drive it many places until almost a year later. So I didn't even get to see all of the perks and all of the different things that were included in this wonderful car until then. But it doesn't drive huge. When you put it in sport mode, it's like driving a 5 Series sedan by BMW. When it's in comfort, which is what I keep it in most of the time, it feels SUV-ish, but it still is very, very tight, turning to the corners, cutting very close. You can make a 3-point road turn without any problems. And I don't know if you can say that about our lovely friend, the Escalade. Like I said, I'm not putting down any car makers because I love them all. They all have their pros and they all have their cons. But when I test drove the Escalade and when I test drove the Lincoln Navigator, which are like yachts on the inside, they are so beautiful, I felt like I was driving a cruise ship. You don't feel that way in this car. A few more points to talk about is, well, I already told you it's great on gas. I already told you it's huge, but it doesn't drive huge. The third row, which makes it really huge, is there, and it's substantially there. It's not like the third row in the Land Rover Discovery, which has your knees up to your chest. Up to average size adults can sit in the third row and feel pretty good. I put 3 kids back there sometimes. So you can definitely fit people comfortably in the third row. It is a true third row, and that really puts it as a good competitor to the GLS, Mercedes GLS, as well as the Lexus 570, as well, LX 570, as well as the Yukon, the Navigator, and all of those really large SUVs that we know historically are huge. And that's why big families love them, because they're huge and they're comfortable and they're great to drive. Horrible on gas typically, but really, really comfortable to drive. Well, this one bridges the gap between looks and comfort, and that's why I love it. Let me make a point about pricing again. A lot of times when people go out searching for cars, houses, and these huge investments, of course, we've worked hard all our lives. We've saved up money, hopefully. We've got our different means of income, and we say, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to reward myself. That's what some of us say. There are those out there who are much more frugal, who don't spend money on cars and houses at all. They keep their money in the bank because they like to watch it grow, and that's totally okay. But if you are, again, thinking about going out and buying a luxury SUV, a house, any of these very potentially prestigious things, keep in mind that there's upkeep as well. This car is very expensive to maintain. I don't own a Range Rover, but I have a lot of friends who do. And I know that it's also very expensive to maintain. So much so that after a year and a half of owning it, a lot of them have turned it in. They buy it because of the prestige, because of its beautiful exterior, because of all the perks that come along with it, and then they realize that it's more than just the monthly car note. Even if they pay cash for it, it's more than just paying for the car. It's the actual upkeep of the car that becomes a whole investment of itself. Let me give you an example of what I mean. And to some of you, you may be so wealthy that this doesn't make you bat an eye. But I know for those who really want that high-end luxury vehicle, and they may be on the fence about whether to buy a German brand or one of the Asian brands, or whether to buy one of the American brands. I don't know how to decipher that for you. All I can talk about is what's important to me. Upkeep and maintenance of a car of any brand is very important because I have 4 children and I have to make sure that we're safe. So here's my little spiel on the upkeep. It is a very expensive car to maintain. So keep that in mind when you're looking at a luxury SUV of any sort, even the BMW X7 that I love so much. The tires, one tire is about $700. That blew my mind. That might be normal to you, but I thought that was astronomical when I first found that out. I have had other luxury SUVs in the past, and I've never paid $700 for a tire, and these tires are run flat tires. And for those of you who may not know about run flat tires, they can be a godsend. If you burst a tire, shred a tire on the highway, you can ride for about 50 miles on the run flat. And that is wonderful. It has happened to me 3 times. And I've actually been able to drive slowly. Of course, you must slow down. Please use precaution and use common sense. You can't ride at 70 miles an hour down, 75 in Atlanta. But you can break it down to about 45 and make it home safely, or make it to the tire shop or wherever your destination is. But the flip side to the run flat, and I know this personally, is it can't be patched. It has to be replaced. So, like in my neighborhood where they're doing a lot of construction, if you run over a nail, that's it. $700 a pop for a new tire. Like I said, if that's cool with you, good. I found that to be interesting, but to have the run flat and the stability and the reliability of the run flat, I understand why BMW puts it on a lot of their cars. Another thing about the tires is rotating them. The front tires and the back tires are not the same size. Again, I've had luxury SUVs, but I've never had one that had that particular qualification. So when they rotate the tires, they can only rotate the tires from side to side. Left to right. Left to right on the front, left to right on the back. Here's why. The front tires are smaller than the back tires, so you can only rotate those two. Same with the back. You can only rotate those two. And again, if you are knowing and in the know about these sort of things, like G.I. Joe said, knowing's half the battle. My kid's knocking on the window. We rotate them from side to side, but like I said, they are very aesthetically pleasing and they are very reliable because you don't have a spare. But you don't need a spare if you have run flats. You just have to keep in mind that your tires are going to be expensive. Here's a good point about BMW. If these tires blow or shred or do something really zany and unusual within a short period of time of you owning the car, I think it's roughly a year. In a lot of cases, you can plead your case and you can have them replaced for free because they will damage it out as warrant. It's either going to be under warranty or, oh gosh, I forgot the word she told me. My wonderful BMW salesperson. I can't think of the name of it. I will look up the name of it and tell you the exact name. But for lack of the term, if it's destroyed under regular wear and tear and you didn't do anything for that to happen, they will replace it for you. So I've had 2 tires replaced and I didn't have to pay anything for them. But then the other tires I've had replaced either due to wear and tear or because of shredding them in the neighborhood on a nail, I've had to pay for them. $700. So just keep that in mind. Then the thing that I love so much about it is there is a person that BMW has on staff at all of their dealerships called a genius. And when I tell you he or she are definitely geniuses, they can answer every question known to man about the BMW. And they're patient. And they sit there and they share with you every piece of information. You can pick their brain. They will program all of these computers for you. And when I bought mine, a genius sat down with me 3 days in a row. I kept going back. He kept helping me until I understood what was going on. So when I tell you customer service, at least here at my place in Atlanta, is bar none. So even though I can honestly say that there's a lot to learn about the car, having the genius on your side makes it a lot better. And I'm a very inquisitive person. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and I like to be able to use all of these fancy gadgets and buttons that the car can do. And if you don't know what's going on, if a light has come on, and she's a delicate little lady, she will flash a light in a minute and tell you something has gone awry, and you might panic and think it's something big. Just call down to your local BMW dealership. They'll put the genius on the phone, and he or she will tell you just why that light came on, and if it's not urgent, how to fix it. As I bring my rant to a close, like I said, this is not a sponsored video. I just was so hyped when I left the BMW dealership a couple of days ago after seeing the new 2023 BMW X7 and just reminiscing on how much I've loved being an owner of a BMW for the past 2.5 years. It's like, has it been 2.5 years? Let's see, 2020, 2021, 2022. Oh, almost 3 years. Being a owner of a BMW X7 for nearly 3 years has just been a joy. And I've had fun driving a lot of other cars. Let me tell you, I'm a car person. Story time off the subject. I am my dad's firstborn child. I'm my mom's firstborn child too, because my parents were married. They had me. And being a little girl didn't matter one bit. My dad dragged me here and he dragged me there. Monster truck shows, up under the car, working on cars. So I have a love for vehicles that maybe not everybody has, because I grew up with them. My father was a truck driver for many years, and my love and understanding of vehicles runs deep. It's in my blood. So I've always loved cars. I love sports cars. My favorite car since I was 4 years old is a Corvette. I don't own one yet. I hope to own one day. But I love every single year except for 1984. I don't know what they were doing in that year. It's not aesthetically pleasing to me, but every other Corvette since 1979 is my favorite Corvette. And not 1984 though, but all the other ones are my favorite. From then, 1979 till now, I love every single one of them. And even the ones prior to 1979, I love. But to find one would be hard. And if you found one, it would probably be priceless. You probably couldn't afford it. So I just look at pictures. I have pictures saved on my computer, and I go and I look back at all of the fancy, wonderful Vettes that were made in the past. But this is not about the Corvette. Just making the note that I love cars, so that I'm not biased toward BMWs necessarily. It's just that as we were switching out our previous QX80 Infiniti, and we were like, man, this thing is so sharp, it's so cool. I don't think there's anything else on the market that's going to beat this, but we had two of them. That's really the reason why we changed. We had a QX56, we loved it. And then we switched to a QX80 and we loved it. And then we said, what else is out there? And when we looked through Audi and Lexus and BMW and Mercedes and Land Rover and all of the names that you know and love, we landed on the BMW X7 that was just being released at the time. And we said, let's try something new. And it has been a really, really great decision. So I just popped on just to tell you, you know, how much I love this car and how excited I am about switching it out to the 2023. And also to let you know that there can be logic to your luxury, that you can enjoy high-end things and beautiful things and still be sensible about the way you go about purchasing those things. So that's all I have today from my impromptu video. I just love it. I just really love it. And aesthetics wise, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I know that there are some people who think that the Escalade is the prettiest SUV ever created. And like I said, I think it's beautiful. And then there are many, 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 many of you who think that the Range Rover is the prettiest vehicle ever created. And again, hey, we can split hairs if we'd like. But to me, what I really like aesthetically, as far as the external look of the X7, is it's different. I know that manufacturers end up copying off one another and things like that. So eventually it won't look as unique as it looks right now. I think as time goes on, other manufacturers will bite off of its look and kind of hone in on some of the specific things that make it really unique and different, and then maybe it won't look as unique as time goes on. That's what ended up happening with the QX80. When it first came out as the QX56, there was literally nothing on the market that looked like that. And then as time went on, shifts in body style, shifts in taste, trends change, and it becomes less unique. But at this point in time, as I'm talking to you in October of 2022, the BMW X7 to me is one of the more unique looking SUVs out there. You know it when you see it. Of course, the big, huge kidney grille. It's an icon. It's iconic. There's no other grille out there like it. It's been somewhat imitated, but it's not ever been duplicated. And it is, certainly a status symbol. We all know that. But for those who, like I say, have the discerning eye to pick beyond status and to pick something that you really love and something that's unique and something that speaks to your sensibilities, this one speaks to my sensibilities. I have it in Alpine White with the coffee interior package. And again, I don't know if that package is going to exist for 2023. That's available at the time when I got this in January of 2020. And I think the color combination is beautiful. But as I saw a few days ago down at the dealership, they have so many beautiful color combinations, just endless. They encourage you to build your own, because each BMW is almost as unique as your own fingerprint. And you can really put your own stamp on it and make it look exactly how you want it to look. And that's what we did with this one. And it's just beautiful. And I'll miss seeing her go, but I think I'm going to enjoy the 2023 just as much, if not better. So aesthetically, on the outside, from a lady's perspective, I think it's really beautiful. I think guys think so too, although I do see that usually when I see a man in the X7, it's an M, because it does have a little bit more sporty exterior. when you get the M version, because that of course is the sports version. It's the answer to the Mercedes AMG, if you're curious as to what the M is. And so I love it. I may get an M next time, but I kind of like how the M looks. But I don't know. We're gonna go and we're gonna do some test driving, and we're gonna look up and close and personal as to the changes that have been added for 2023, and then we'll make our decision and we'll get it. Until then, I'm gonna enjoy my baby, my beautiful X7 2020. And I just wanted to share that, because with luxury and logic, I think it's always beautiful to mix the two together. Know what you're getting, enjoy what you're getting, don't break the bank, know what your pocketbook can handle. And as I'm signing off, please, 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 please take care of yourselves and one another. God bless you. See you next time.